Hello. I thought I'd do a quick video tutorial just as a refresher, since Thursday was kind of a long time ago, and also some of us were drunk by the end of the night, and this might be helpful to look at before you start using it. And also, some people weren't there. So if you decide to use this tool, here's how. So when you open up the Excel document, you've got two sheets that you're going to be working with. You've got this first one that comes up right away, and this is your data log. So you're putting in all of your data here, and I've formatted the template with examples of each class here. So you should not have to add in any classes or really free type in this column at all. Initially with each thing, you can just go in and change whatever my examples are. So, just go through and make whatever your own shift information was. 2016, exciting. And just change each example. But then once you're done doing that, you're going to have to add in your new shifts. So I'll show you how to do that. But just know that it's based on each row is a shift, and each shift should have a corresponding class. So we'll get to that. And where this is all going is this sheet, which is the clinical totals sheet. And this is going to keep track of everything you've done, everything you have left to do, and also what that kind of looks like for your time based on, how many shifts that means. And it's, kind of rounding. It's not going to be exact for everybody, but for the most part, it's hard to know what something like 276 hours means for your number of shifts, so it's good to know. Sometimes that something like that means 34, although none of us have that left because this is not filled in at all. So that would be really intimidating. But yeah, so if that's helpful for you, I assumed that outpatient shifts were about 8 hours and women and intrapartum were 12. So that's how I broke that down. So it goes by women's health, primary care, intrapartum, and then newborn hours. And newborn hours are specific to the shifts that we did last year. And SEAL wanted these to be documented sort of separately, or in addition to documenting newborn assessments themselves, the 20 that we have to do. So really, I'll show you where you enter this, but this is only going to be probably about like 3 shifts for everybody. And this will be where the hours for that comes out. And then here you've got the program totals. And below you have experiences, and those you have the number that you need to accomplish for each, and then some where there aren't requirements necessarily, but you might want to keep track of them. And if you want me to add anything, if there's anything in here that we feel like we want to keep track of, or if you personally do, let me know, and I can change that and send it right back to you. It wouldn't be hard. Okay, so let's do an example. So let's say you had your first shift and you changed whatever this example is for the class, and then you had a second shift, and so you have to add in a new row. So you would go to the row below your first shift and right click and do insert, and you're highlighting the entire row from over here, not just this. And you would type in what it was. So if it was a women's health class, you would either copy and paste, or you could drag down. But that's really important not to free type in this column, because the formatting, I'm going to say format like 1,000 times. I'm sorry. But anyway, it has to be exact. So then, you go to whatever the date of the shift was, and so on. And these are not important. The only other really important thing is the formatting for the hours that you did. So if you know what time you went in and what time you left, I would again, like with column B, make sure you're copying and pasting. So I know obviously you didn't come in at 7 a.m. and leave at 7 a.m., but you use that format to just then sort of line edit. That way, the formula does not get upset. And you would know that it was upset because here, look, you drag the formula down, and here it's doing its thing. Let's say you were like, oh, I came in at 8 a.m. and I left at 7 p.m. You get this angry symbol. And I did that because I didn't want any chance for there to not be like a really obvious warning sign if you were going to basically be typing in hours that weren't going to be calculated, because that would suck to find out later when you're like, why am I short? Why did I have to go in for 3 extra days? That's just not going to happen because I am too afraid of that and made this really strict formatting. So the other reason too is that, I think it's probably excessive that I put in the seconds. You don't have to put in the seconds. But I think the minutes were important to keep track of. So if you stayed 15, extra minutes, but you did that, a number of times, that's going to add up, and you don't want to miss that in your calculations. So that's why that is. If you don't know the time that you came in and the time that you left, because you're doing this, way after you did your shift, you can just type in this column. That's fine if you free type in it. But you just want to make sure you're keeping the format exact. So let's say you ended up doing 11 hours and 30 minutes. That's how it needs to look. Because if you did just 11, it would be like mad at you, which I like. Because then we cannot fuck this up, guys. There. Okay. Is, I think, pretty straightforward now. So that's like the most sort of tricky part, and that's really not that tricky. You just have to make sure your formatting is sticks with the way that it's set up. So then you just go down your experience of the day. So let's say you saw like 7 patients and like 2 preconception and 1 new antepartum. And I would say just make sure you put some kind of value in each cell. That way you don't think that you just forgot. So let's say you didn't see any, well, no, nobody's not. Okay, this would be unrealistic for me to not have seen any return antepartum. So I'm not going to just even lie. But let's say, it was a women's health shift. You wouldn't have seen labor management. You wouldn't have done labor management, hopefully. So you put 0, 0 births, 0, 0, 0, and so forth. So let's skip to, and it's really easy and quick. Not nearly as painful as Typhon. Takes 2 seconds. So anyway, so then the other important thing is primary care. So with primary care, we are trying to keep track of it separately from women's health, even though technically it's a part of the women's health class. So if you had a shift that was a specifically primary care shift, you would do everything we just did with it being the women's health class here. But once you got to, once you got to the primary care column, you would type in yes. So that yes basically tells the Excel document to calculate those however many hours, it was like 11 and something, into your primary care totals rather than, there you go, 11 hours and 30 minutes, rather than women's health. So if we hadn't typed yes, if we had done a dash or anything else really, it would have gone towards women's health. So if it is a primary care visit, yes. If it's not, dash. And then if it was women's health and you saw common health problems, you'd write down how many you saw. And I think if it was primary care and you saw, 10 common health problems, I think you're still writing that down. But I'll double check with Seal. So anyway, on down the line, did you talk about family planning? Was it an annual? Blah, blah, blah. And then I put this in because I always forget to do my evaluations. So this is hopefully a little reminder before I leave, if I do these before I leave, that I need to do my evaluation and that I need to upload it. So there's that. Pretty straightforward. I can't remember if I've said it already, but these are just little reminder notes that you can absolutely get rid of whenever you don't need them. Same with under primary care. Here it's reminding you to type yes or a dash. And that's that. So Typhon. So there's two ways to do it. One would be to enter in every single shift, and one would be to enter in your one row for the entire class and all of the hours associated. So I'll quickly show you both. Here's an example. So this is mine, and I did it by every single shift. And this was before, I think it was either Casey or Sierra obviously said, hey, can I just do this with one row and all the total and use the totals from Typhon, which is a lot easier. I think if you wanted to still really see, every single shift and look at all the details for each one, then maybe it still makes sense to do it this way. But I'm not sure that I would have if I had thought of that. I'll show you both in case you want to, just so you really have everything possible. So, Typhon. So if you're going to, basically for either way, you go to my time logs, and I would either print this out or just have it, really accessible, because you're going to be looking at the dates, but also at the hours. So you've got that, and then if you want to do each and every shift, you'd go into case log highlights by day, week, month, and you'd type in a day, there. And it shows you how many patients you saw that day and gives you, the details about them. And so it becomes pretty easy to just fill this into the clinical log. So I know on that day, let's say, all right, I'm going back to the fall of 2014, so fall 2014, and it's that women's health class, and it was, I forget, something like this. And okay, so you fill all that out. You probably don't know, I don't think it shows up what time you came in or left, and that's fine. But what you do know are the clinical hours, and just to show you. So you do know that day, you did 8.5 hours, so you just do 8:30. And then, I saw 5 patients. None of them were preconception. 4 were return, 1, and 4, and on down the line. I think it can get a little tricky if you're trying to remember exactly, what you would have talked with the patient about when you're trying to get into detailed things like Nexplanon insertions. Hopefully, I never did one, so I don't know, but I think it would show up. But like, common health problems. I think that hopefully it shows up where you've written something like nutrition, and that, what day was it? Oh, shoot, forgot the day. That's why. Okay. You've written something like nutrition, and then you can put that into common health problems. Or if it was a postpartum visit, you probably talked about family planning. So you can kind of, assume that you had certain discussions and touched on certain topics with people. Same with, if it's like an annual, you probably discuss family planning in the sense that you asked what they're on. So I think that it's pretty easy to fill in the details. But if you don't want to do it that way, the other option is by doing all of your totals for each class in one row. So it would still be fall 2014, it would still be this class, but instead of this date, you'd be doing something like all fall. And then in that case, you might have had different preceptors or whatever, so you would just have to make a call on how you wanted to record that. And you would end up with something like, 88 hours. And you would find that out by, again, going to your time log hours, and you'd look at this course, and so you would just highlight for your sake so that you can then manually add those numbers all up. So let's say it was 88. Then you go to your case log totals and take the rest of the information from here. So you've got, 106 patients. You saw, 71 routine follow-ups, 15 initial visits. So that's pretty easy to, start filling in. and that will then calculate for you all of what you've done and your clinical totals. So that's it. If you guys have any questions, any concerns about anything, hopefully I don't think I forgot much in this, but feel free to reach out, and otherwise, have a good weekend.